Vernal pools, also called vernal ponds or ephemeral ponds, are seasonal pools of water that provide habitat for specialized plants and animals. They are a distinctive type of wetland, usually devoid of fish, and thus allowing for the safe development of amphibians and insect species, who are unable to withstand the competition or predation by fish. The rotifer found in this video is magnified by 100 times. This is a small, multicellular animal that uses a sweeping-like motion of its cilia around its mouth to bring in smaller creatures. The cilia is a short, microscopic, hair-like vibrating structure that causes currents in the surrounding fluid. The smaller, single-celled animals that the rotifer eats have already broken down and used the energy that is left in the decomposing plant material. Fairy shrimp are another species you might find in a vernal pool. You can see one swimming around here. If salamanders are the signature vertebrates in a vernal pool, then the fairy shrimp holds that place for the invertebrates. These relatives of the much larger lobster and crayfish live very short lives, hardly more than 2 weeks. With its hatching starting while the ice still covers the pools in late winter, the fairy shrimp swiftly molt into several stages. The fairy shrimp are omnivores and eat just about anything, while trying not to be eaten in return. This spotted salamander is a large, chunky salamander with 2 irregular rows of yellow, greenish-yellow, or orange spots. It ranges in length from 6 to 7.5 inches. Because of their secretive and nocturnal nature and habit of tunneling underground, these spotted salamanders are seldom seen except in early spring when they migrate in large numbers to breeding ponds, such as these vernal pools that we have been talking about. Often the only evidence of the presence of this salamander is a fist-sized egg mass containing less than 100 eggs attached to a submerged stick or plant. Interestingly enough, when these eggs are laid, they are not the size of a fist and are much smaller, but the jelly-like covering swells upon contact with the water. This salamander temporarily shares a tub with the dragonfly larva. The feathery-like external gills and longer shape distinguish this salamander from its tadpole cousins. Both the dragonfly and the salamander are carnivores, preying on other animals living in the vernal pool. They may eat each other, given the chance. If there are fish in the pond, both will fall as meals to the fish. Temporary pools that dry up each year in late summer or fall will not hold these fish and make it the perfect place for the young salamander to grow up. The tiny Y-shaped creatures seen here are copepods. The bushy appendages are their egg sacs. Like many of the vernal pool creatures, they will eat a variety of different things in their diet. The white fuzzy masses you see are commonly called moss animals, or bryozoan. They are attached to the decaying debris and sweep food in similarly to how the rotifers do. I would hate to be a very small algae or animal in these pools, as the competition is fierce. Like the fairy shrimp, the bryozoan, and the copepods all share the same survival strategy when the pools dry up. As the pools dry, the animals or eggs form into cysts that survive the cold and dry times in the pools. They wait for the water and the spring sun to come back before hatching or becoming active again.
Here's a really good video of a Hydra. Looks like something just made contact with him. You can watch those tentacles contract whenever something hits them. Just like the jellyfish, their bigger cousins, if I can keep this guy in focus, they have stinging cells, which this one uses to capture other organisms and ingest them, but green inside of it is actually a symbiotic algae. So this particular Hydra can go longer periods of time without eating compared to its cousin, which doesn't have the symbiotic algae. They're closely related to jellyfish. This guy is on a decomposing leaf is where he's setting, and we're just watching him do his thing.
This freshwater organism can eat anything that it can sting with its tentacles and then fit down its mouth, mostly protozoans and small arthropods. This Jefferson salamander is a very common vernal pool migrant, found in high-quality vernal pools here in Pickaway County. Once the breeding is done in the early spring, the adults move away from the ponds and into wooded areas where they live secretive lives, hunting for invertebrates such as insects and worms, small enough to fit into their mouths. This salamander, like its relative, the spotted, tiger, and smallmouth, it will move up to a couple hundred yards away from the breeding pools to forage. Enemies of this salamander include loss of feeding area in forested areas, loss of vernal pools, and obstacles in their spring migration.